the advantage, being the team with the most experience, also I'd say better mechanics, but it is the opposite going up against SSG. No matter the results we saw yesterday, SSG have stepped up today, and they are much more prepared. While it's not the peak SSG we expect, one player in particular, Typical, I just want to mention, has been playing exceptionally well. I think his success is what's reviving SSG, and it's going to give them a chance to make a lower bracket run.
Well, on the other side, what's helping out Xset is this guy, Alpha Kep, behind the ball, trying to force Reddles off. But he constantly finds himself in the center of every push, every defense that Xset have. T. Corell or Hoxer, doesn't matter. Alpha Kep has been a consistent force for this team. In his last match, he certainly looked that way. And Hoxer, the question mark's kind of still on him because T. Corell is having some success over on the Sonics today. And you think when you look at these, when you look at that switch off, you'd hope for the same for Hoxer.
Yeah. Well, it's been a different day, I'd say, for Hoxer. J-Pow has been a highlight player from Xset, but Hoxer's been a bit shaky off the backboard. I think he had that clutch assist, though, in Game 5, the 0-second goal winner in that series, but previously had made the mistake off the backboard. So he's been very hit or miss. We'll see how he performs in this series against SSG.
Good shot, but taken away pretty easily by Typical. It hasn't been really completely Space Station dominant in the first minute and a half. In fact, it's Xset who have 4 shots to the 1, but shots aren't the entire game and not indicative of the entire flow of how things have gone, but a lot of aggressive challenges from Xset. Won't get caught out this time. We'll have to come back. J-Pow on the assignment to keep everything smooth on the blue half.
Yeah, and this seems like the style that SSG want to get buried into, where they're just going back and forth between corners. This was the start of the version 1 game that we watched yesterday, where SSG just constantly battling back between corners, taking every single boost pad. I think the only issue was the striking. They gave too many chances, for version 1 to get back in the game. But coming out here, look at all the starvation. They're winning out in the clears like that from Reddles. He lands in the corner, takes the boost, and even when demos come out, J-Pow has nothing in the tank. He can't do much with this, but just stall for his teammates.
He did get that corner boost and shoveled the ball out for Alpha Kep, but that's only going to be delaying Space Station. Hoxer challenging the backboard, but things have been pretty clean for Space Station. Being another touch here in the corner, they start to win a couple more of those 50s. Ooh, they could have some success, but Reddles tried to go for the bump, and he still almost got the goal.
Oh, the 1v1.
Barely avoiding both. Now J-Pow swings wide left to take it out.
And that's an unfortunate situation for J-Pow. He got the turnaround to get a counterattack, had the 1v1 situation. He tried to get the ball right on top of his hood, but once it dropped to the left, he had no option, couldn't go for the shot. Ideally, you want to put at least one flick on net in that situation. That's a missed opportunity.
Ooh, the shot from J-Pow's off the post, and he almost grabbed the rebound. A close one for J-Pow, who's had 2 looks at the net. One a little more difficult, couldn't take a shot. That one barely off the mark. Hoxer just on the mark on the touch for the clear, and stops the ball past his own third. So Xset, say what you want about them, of their ability to keep the ball in the orange half, but even in some tight boost situations, they've kept Space Station scoreless.
Yeah, I think this is not the most panicked situation though for SSG. They've definitely learned to just stay calm and keep their composure, because at the end of the day, like I said, this is the style they want to fall into, having possession. They're not worried too much about absolutely obliterating Xset with the score line. They just want to make sure they can starve them out and have a consistent game with pressure the entire time.
Arsenal patient on that last touch. Space Station are always going to make you think about how they're approaching the ball. Not afraid to take a break check when they think a challenge is going to come too fast. And if then they get you to stop, that's typically where they start to peel you apart. But Xset, again, very solid on getting these hard clears out. They have a little bit of space to work with as well. Hoxer uses everything in the tank. Not the most productive touch that actually turned into a shot. I wasn't sure about the quality of that, but J-Pow made the most of it.
Yeah, it was an awkward rotation, too, from SSG. There were 2 players sitting in net. I believe it was Reddles who didn't want to push out. And then now we've gotten more of a midfield battle where both teams have to win those 50s if they want to push forward. Originally, I started with SSG. This one might drop down. Could we get overtime? Chipped in the middle. Almost a shot there for Reddles, but it is going to drop, and we've got overtime.
Well, I think there's been a lot of good looks for Xset on offense, which bodes well for this overtime.
Yeah.
If they can secure the kickoff, and they do. But Space Station, they always have to be wary of how they're approaching the pitch. Be aware of where all three of them are at all times. They'll try to take advantage of you on your blind spots. Xset, very aware, but playing really well overall to keep the Space Station offense without much havoc. I haven't seen a ton of demos. Space Station have tried to control the pitch a lot, and Xset have met them.
Yeah, it's a much more controlled game. That's off the backboard for AlphaCap, who has a good read, but you'll notice SSG, they're not too aggressive. They just want to have little passing plays like this where it's very collected, nothing too risky, and that's a beautiful little drop-off for Reddles.
Hoxer was just too far back on that play, and he was working on limited boost. So as soon as that first touch happened, that was pretty much it. Reddles, Typical, and Arsenal getting the first win for Space Station, but this was a really close one. That touch from Typical was absolutely important. That gave the Space Station, but beyond that, that was really the most quality shot that we saw at a Space Station all match.
Yeah, I think that when it comes down to SSG with those quality shots, you're right. Sometimes the opportunities haven't been coming as much, actually. Mostly in this regional event, I've noticed SSG don't want to force opportunities as much. Maybe they're trying to go for a more risk-free style where they don't have to overextend as much. It's resulting in less goals, but they did look relatively dominant with the pressure. Things were scary for their defense at times because Xset, they had those solid challenges to push forward, but nothing in terms of their opportunities were that great because J-Pow, he had, 2 looks at the net, still didn't put one in.
I think you make a good point about Space Station being more risk-averse than other teams. They definitely take their share of risks, but lately they've been very content to, play low. They don't really care about trying to I wouldn't say out mind game is the wrong phrase, but they're just trying to read where you're going with the ball, and they're going to take it away. They're not going to try to force some crazy 50s or go for a third man challenge. It's a little too aggressive, maybe. I think they're content to play this very control-heavy style that has worked in their favor and why they've been so successful. But even here against Xset, where it's been difficult, they don't really deviate from that. They pick their battles pretty well. Yeah.
Well, and I'm wondering if this is a change in playstyle because of the format. Now that we have gotten into the double elimination bracket, in Swiss we would play so many games. I feel like SSG had a bit more confidence to say, all right, we have a couple of lives here. Why don't we just throw everything we have at them with a different playstyle, be super aggro? And that seemed to be working out for them relatively well in that format. Come out here, they only have, 1 life, especially if they get down to the lower bracket. This is it. If they lose this series, they go home. So playing a safer playstyle is very expected if you're a bit nervous.
And version 1 had success against that simply because they had played perfect defense. Even in high-stress situations where they didn't have a lot of boost, Xset have to match that. They have to match that defensive perfection that version 1 had in that game. Otherwise, they're going to constantly find themselves fighting in their own third for boosts for the ball, and it's always really dangerous when Space Station spread out wide in midfield because you don't really know where each is going to go with the ball. You can count on Reddles to catch the ball, try to carry it most of the time. Typical loves to take to the skies for his control, and honestly, Arsenal just loves to do anything. But I'm not trying to overcharacterize each player, but just everyone's got something they like to go to a little bit more in their toolkit on Space Station. But they're switching it up a little bit, keeping the ball a little bit closer. Xset, as much as they've been able to keep Space Station out in this game, they're having troubles getting into the orange half.
Ooh, Arsenal going for some demos. I like the aggressive reach there on the rotation. That's something I want to see more out of SSG. But again, it's the same situation we found ourselves in the first game where we're scoreless coming on to the second half. And it's simply a battle at the midfield where neither team really wants to push up and be too aggressive. There's a bump play that could result in something. J-Pound now trying to get another one. The 50 goes in favor of Hoxer, but he can't push past that second challenge off the wall, and it ends up getting broken up from SSG.
Wow. Alpha Kep stole that boost in the corner, and it just threw the Space Station rotation into chaos. You had two players that were sitting on low boosts right in that corner. Alpha Kep had chipped one of them, came in and got a bump as well on top of it. And Xset, they still have the ball here. Space Station, for all that happened, they were able to keep the ball out of the net thanks to a good first-man effort in the defensive third. But Alpha Kep, you know, the eyes, they start to fall to him in this kind of situation. He's gotten Xset in the lead out of tight situations, and he may be called upon again to do that. Typical can't find any way through against the Xset wall. Alpha Kep taking the save here, but he's got to keep close. Reddles was always lurking, but he got over him, and now Xset can reset.
Yeah, and you mentioned players to call upon whenever you need to clutch out a situation. Reddles has been that for SSG these past few days. His accuracy, especially against that 72 PC matchup, he was so accurate with hitting the corners. His striking, absolutely fantastic. And that's something they need again here in this series. We saw it in game one. We'll see if he comes through in the final minute like he did earlier.
Reddles gets the catch on the rebound. Typical, a quick follow-up. Xset, it looked like they had something good developing on the transition earlier, but it got stinted again. And now they got to get by Arsenal. Alpha Kep in a 1v1 battle. He beat Arsenal to the play while Hoxer was getting tied up and he was late on the second man rotation. J-Pound wins another solid challenge. His last couple of 50s have been really favorable, but Xset just haven't been in position to capitalize. Regardless, they've kept Space Station scoreless yet again, but they got to do it one more time. Reddles with a pass, but it's saved by J-Pow, and Alpha Kep gets the catch.
Lovely positioning from J-Pow. He knew Reddles was trying to get an infield pass off the backboard, so J-Pow had some man coverage waiting for that shot to come out. Forced the 50, and they stay alive. They have held on through so much pressure of SSG. Even with the double commit there, they're still going strong.
Alpha Kep launches it forward. Xset starting to feel desperate for a clear at the end of regulation. Arsenal plays it slow. Got the kick to Typical. And it's knocked out by J-Pow. It will touch the ground, and we go to OT.
Again, it's the reads from J-Pow. Pivotal on the defensive side for Xset. Good kickoff, and SSG still scoreless.
Typical back to his own corner. It's been a struggle for Space Station to keep pressure, but they've also not been too greedy to go for the pressure when they don't need to. They still want to stick to that control, and it's been successful. They've had to guard minimal opportunities from Xset. They only have 4 shots on net. Compare that to the 8 from Space Station, and the difference is Space Station don't feel a lot of pressure, but one whiff can make the difference. Typical couldn't get that touch earlier, but his teammates are able to give him a little bit of time, and he gets the clear.
Yeah, that touch earlier, or excuse me, that miss from Typical, that is where you get scared. If you're going to play the passive play style and not be too greedy, like you said, with the shots, instead throwing one person forward like Arsenal there, you have to make sure everybody has boost and you can get those solid touches on defense because you're not wasting too much time. Reddles went for the cheeky little mind game. Typical has an easy finish, but there was a rotation just in time from Hoxer.
Alpha Kep, all he can get is a small touch forward. Typical had plenty of time to get back and get a full tank of boost, but now he's got to turn around. Here comes Alpha Kep.
He
faked down Typical, and Xset take down Space Station in game 2.
Alpha Kep, he was put in such a difficult situation. The one-on-one, he jumps one little second and delays it, assuming he's going to go for the flip. Typical just flies into the air. And Alpha Kep, what a clutch play, putting Xset back in the series.
Again, the centerpiece, Turtle. He always finds himself behind the ball in these situations. When Xset win these types of games, it's typically Alpha Kep doing stuff like that. Now, that will put, that might not put a spook into Reddles, but, you know, you got to be thinking about the tweet a little bit, or all the tweets, all the talk. It's not one tweet, it's not one specific anything, but that's just where the mind goes. Yeah. At least my mind did initially. It's like Xset win this game, and now you might immediately start thinking, uh-oh. And I think there's reason to think so. Xset have played pretty solid defense for the most part. They're just going to have to be that good for the rest of the distance here.
The crazy thing is we could have seen that same exact result from the first game. You remember J-Pow had the counterattack. The only difference is this time it was AlphaKep, and he got the fake. He got the clutch play to put Xset ahead. We almost saw that. If J-Pow had found the shot in game 1, we'd be looking at 2-0 for Xset. We are tied up 1-1 in the series. SSG, we haven't seen the demos. We haven't seen that aggression. It's usually been Arsenal going for a one-on-one solo play, trying to break up the defense. But like we saw against version 1, that is not going to work the way they expect it.
Well, that pass in front was solid to Reddles, and it'll be a goal for Space Station. Arsenal picks up the rebound on the board.
This is a lovely hit off the backboard from Sypical. That turn in, out into the midfield. Then the hit from Reddles. That was just a three-man passing play. And SSG, that's the composure that we look for. They had gotten the space, and they made use of it.
Arsenal will take over again for Space Station on this next kickoff, where in the first 2 games, Xset were able to hold Space Station to 0 for 5 minutes. But game 3 might tell a different story. J-Pow got the catch and got the follow-up to get the ball out to the corner. But Hoxer just wanted to give Alpha a chance at it, and the bouncer shot from Reddles was not bouncy enough. J-Pow back to AlphaKep for the clear.
That must have been a wake-up call last game, because this is a chaotic SSG, but I'm loving it. You see Reddles keeping his rotation a little bit longer in the other side to go for a demo, get a couple of bumps. We've noticed the defense from Xset has been pretty all over the place, and it's creating a lot more space for SSG to do some damage. Typical has some room to grow and get those mechanics in as well.
Typical able to get around J-Pow, and a flick after that. Trying to put together a couple combos, Space Station. Reddles with another flick off the back wall. The shot almost snuck its way through AlphaKep. Hoxer able to get that ball out by midfield. He's able to win the ball in the corner and can't really get much farther. The ball just knocked against his car. AlphaKep and J-Pow just keeping Space Station at bay for a moment. Nice challenge by Hoxer. Oh, and J-Pow was actually lurking in front. Xset loving the positioning that we're seeing. And Hoxer, on the last few opportunities, has had some good 50s to set Xset up back on offense.
His team passing plays, though, still risky for the defense of Xset, as it is working out very well for SSG. As long as they can thread it on that transition, find somebody who's lurking upfield. Usually it has been Reddles. And now the fake from AlphaKep. The one-on-one plays from this man have always been impressing me.
He might be able to fake him once, but he couldn't fake him twice. We'll keep it back into the corner. It was enough to keep Xset on offense, but trying to secure those corner boosts as well to put the pressure even closer to the wall. And a demo on the backside from Hoxer might open up a seam. J-Pow waits in the corner. He'll take the boost, but lose the ball. AlphaKep X-Man up. He'll take care of that issue. The demo from J-Pow, and he'll score on top of it through the flames. Xset tie.
Oh, we got the demo. The 50 from AlphaKep, who's, again, a part of that offensive strike. J-Pow has the whole net to shoot at. AlphaKep carried that beautifully. You mentioned it, Jorby. The demo, Xset, tie it up. And I'm amazed. I heard Johnny Boy talking earlier about, if Xset play the same way they did earlier against Seoul, going into this matchup for SSG, that he thought they would take it. And I thought that was a little bit of a bold prediction. But after seeing this performance from Xset, it makes complete sense.
They've matched the field awareness of Space Station. That's part of why this has been so defensive. It's been so difficult to generate some consistent offense. But Xset, they found that secret final gear where they could stay on Space Station's half for a while and finally collect on a goal. But now you have to do it again. They've only been able to score one other goal in this match so far, and yet they're in position to take the lead in the series. So J-Pow on the carry, gonna get Xset set up once more. Gonna be a good space play for... maybe got the shot. Here comes again on the rebound, but AlphaKep dove right on top of it. And J-Pow got the catch off the ramp. That was looking really dangerous, but Xset got out of it. It's probably the best look Space Station had out of the last 4 or 5 that we saw from them. They had the passing play there. They seemingly had Xset beat, but then just couldn't actually get the ball completely on target. still a tough situation. Alpha kept rolling right on back on that ball, and I mean, this is looking like it's headed to another overtime, unless J-Pow has something to say and just can't find the mark.
The corner play from J-Pow, originally it was Alpha kept, but now J-Pow getting a piece of it. They're moving this ball through that corner. Once they get the 50, like, look at Hoxer. He won a challenge in the corner, continues forward, gets another touch out. That time it was blocked away from a player on SSG, but if that rolls across again, they're looking at a second goal. Hoxer tried to do it for a third time, and still can't get the dunk. It's just back and forth, Jorby. Not one counterattack is working for either team, but demos have been increasing.
They've gotten so much value Xset have out of their 50s on the orange half. Quick transition for Arsenal, but it will be caught by Hoxer. They need a follow-up. J-Pow's so quick to the ball in this game. Here's a potential pass that actually comes for free off the back wall, and the challenge goes back over to Hoxer. Gotta keep control. Don't give Spacestation that chance. And the third straight overtime in this match.
I'm surprised too. I saw Arsenal have a little chance to control the ball, bring it down, go for the typical one-on-one play that he's so good at doing, but instead he just decided to take an early shot. Could have maybe gotten a buzzer beater there. But like you said, Jorby, we're in the third overtime. That went off the ceiling. It drops down for Reddles, and they're there to punish.
Great shot from Reddles on this play. Alpha kept rolling in as the last man. He wanted to come up, tried to get reset on it, and Reddles knew he had him dead in the net. Put the bounce shot far side. Easy goal for Reddles. Spacestation, one more to go, but I mean, game 4 is not theirs. It's not theirs. They have to earn that one. Xset have played an excellent match so far, Turbo.
Oh, certainly. And it's also Hoxer on the backboard, who has been a bit inconsistent still. I talked about it earlier in game 5. He was the reason why they had to get that buzzer beater in the first place. Granted, he did make the play to make up for it, but he comes out here against SSG still a bit shaky. I think Hoxer on the offensive side has always been very dominant, but he's been, like I said, shaky on the backboard. So I think if he can pick that up, we'll see a better Xset defense. And still, if they move through the corners like this, I can fully expect to see a game 5 if we see a couple more plays like that.
It's like they'd win a 50 around that area or even in the third. And even if they don't get the immediate follow-up, they got so much value out of taking a boost out. And Alpha Kep especially was constantly harassing the back line on the orange half. And he was forcing them to move every single time. Like Spacestation, they weren't able to adapt to it readily enough, but I think that in game 4, Xset might not have as much success securing those corner boosts, but it has worked, Turtle. I think they have the blueprint, and if they can be successful on that first 50 in the orange half like that again, then Spacestation are going to be in trouble.
Well, they're going to have to do it right now. We're on match point. Loser goes home. Xset facing elimination against SSG, who are a bit passive, but confident, to say the least.
And we'll start with Hoxer on the back wall. He's got enough boost to get downfield. Alpha Kep is waiting, and he watches it go in. His teammate gets the goal, and Xset strike first.
Oh, this is revenge for Hoxer. He sees him in the air, knows that if he keeps boosting, he can outpace Typical. To follow it up after you're clear, that's an incredible task, but then to put it on net, it's another difficult one to face. Hoxer makes it look easy.
Like Spacestation really expected it to head right to their net on that play. Launch downfield to put Hoxer up. Typical will win his first 50. He'll get around the second defender, just trying to get J-Pow in an awkward spot. I think he accomplished his goal. The Spacestation trying to keep that ball away from Xset in the corner. They just want to bang it back. They got the bump, and they don't get the goal. It went off the crossbar into Hoxer's bumper.
And then now on the counterattack, I got worried. That's where Xset had been able to strike. I mean, you think back to the Alpha Kep one-on-one dribble earlier, and then now whenever Hoxer gets that clear, he's able to follow it up. It's all started in the defensive end for Xset. That's where they need to prioritize their boost, make sure whenever they do get possession, they can explode out of their own half, because SSG are not prepared for it.
And Alpha Kep just sat there as Reynolds tried to carry it out, but not enough to be able to move downfield quick enough, and just launched it by him and ended up being forced to give up possession. Sometimes Xset really do take the driver's seat, and it's starting to feel even in that respect for both teams. Impressive stuff from Xset to handle this Spacestation attack, and they almost got the goal, but Reynolds with a great diving stop.
Oh my goodness, that was so difficult, especially for Reynolds coming off the back wall. Whenever you're flying across the net, it's so easy to air roll and ruin how you're gonna hit the ball and actually own goal it yourself and pinch it off the post. Reynolds, Nice defensive mechanics there to keep his team only within 1 goal.
Hoxer has really heated up as the match has gone on. I felt like he was pretty quiet in game 1, but since then has filled the role of just winning that 50, get a lot of awkward touches where Spacestation can't really read it too far ahead of time. Give your team enough time to get close, get a quick follow-up, and that's really worked. And Hoxer, he doesn't get this one. As Typical hops right on top of him. And if Space Stations start to get a little bit faster on those types of plays, and Xset, they really got to keep their cameras on a swivel for it.
Well, earlier too, Jorby, for SSG, you made the point that everybody has that type of toolkit that they want to use the most on their roster. Now you're seeing the same thing from Xset. You see Hoxer do the plays that you were talking about earlier, Jorby, by himself, and then Arsenal wraps around. It doesn't matter what toolkit you bring out. It doesn't matter what you have to throw at him, because if you've got solo plays like this off the wall, the wave dash too, oh, it was clean.
It was clean, and it had to be, because Alpha Kep got harassed in net by Reddles, and Alpha Kep avoided him, but he got stopped on the inside of the net ramp, and that gave Arsenal just enough time to get around and sneak that in, but Alpha Kep was ready for it. Had Reddles not forced him out, I think that definitely would have been saved, so that bump coming in at a critical time for Space Station to tie it back up quickly on an Xset defense that's proven pretty difficult to crack through.
Oh, nice control from Arsenal in the corner. Look at that first touch. He might not have won the 50, but being able to force it out, and then now Reddles can get the better clear. That's wonderful from Arsenal. SSG still haven't seen the panic once.
They've been pretty consistent on their approach. The difficulty comes now, getting the game leading goal. On front, Xset haven't really felt much pressure themselves on defense. Very clear, the body language on the pitch, or car language, if you will, as well as I'm sure the vocal comms, very clean. Their play on the pitch would certainly suggest so. Hoxer up high here for J-Pow, who's been electric at times in this match. He's gotten close on a few plays.
Yeah.
If you give him space like that in front a couple more times, he might deliver.
I like that idea as well. I think that could be a huge tactic to go up against his SSG defense. Off the backboard, Reddles doesn't get the best first touch, but gets a good 50, and there's still saves coming out from everyone on Xset. They're stopping every single shot, even if a double commit has occurred. Somehow they've managed to keep the rotation.
Hoxer was able to recover after almost double committing, and that shot came by pretty quickly.
Oh my goodness,
Hoxer almost sniped it, rolled off the post. J-Pow, the second man up, got demoed by Typical. The Space Station, that was a high flick from Arsenal, and now they want to move. Here comes Reddles. Typical couldn't deliver a blow onto the Xset defense. Alpha Kep, that ball kicked out away from him in the final remaining moments of Game 4. Could it be another overtime? Or will Space Station end it here? A whiff! I don't think he expected it! And Reddles couldn't find the target. Typical wins the 50, but that's going to be J-Pow's ball at the end of regulation. Hoxer and Arsenal battle, and Typical, he catches it with under a second left. Alpha Kep gets the catch. Typical still has the pass out to Arsenal. It's a high bounce for Reddles on the rebound. Wants it back to Typical, but it drops. Here we go.
You could see that touch from Typical to keep it in. I thought maybe we'd get a buzzer beater, and the kickoff, that's gonna slip to the left side. I thought maybe it was going in, especially from Arsenal's perspective. That looked like the 50 was going in, but this one, surely from Typical off the kickoff, they continue with their pressure.
J-Pow had one good 50, but that was one too many for him to handle. Perfectly timed on that 50 from Arsenal, and Typical ends it for Xset. The lights fade on their run in this first regional. Space Station move on, and that was definitely just probably one of the more tense matches that we've had in this regional, Turtle. The defense for both teams was immaculate.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it, is tense, because as I'm sitting here in the series, it's not, you know, the normal ball chasing style that we'll see out of either team coming out here. It's very, very controlled and methodical. These teams always want to know where they're going to go with the ball forward, which is something sometimes we don't get out of SSG. It's very chaotic, demo heavy that we mentioned earlier, but this is very passive. They just want to breeze through this lower bracket, even if they drop a game to Xset, so long as they can stay consistent with the way they're moving down the field. That's one thing we'll always know about SSG with this style, is that when they do transition out, it's very solid. A lot of these passing plays coming out are just exploiting the defense of Xset, because Xset, a bit slower on the rotation. SSG, they don't need to force those demos like they normally do. They can just wait, and when they get those opportunities, just make sure they strike, and they did here.
Coming up next, the Susquehanna Sonics take on the Peeps, who just won in the last match. As we continue through the lower bracket, only one can stay in the tournament. We'll have that after the break.